guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. So we are still in the month of Pride themed videos. So in this video, I'm going to be turning different Pride flags into pieces of artwork. Now, this idea is inspired by Lavender Town, who's done the same thing a couple times. I'm sure she didn't invent the idea, but I am stealing it from her. So yeah, I'll put a link in the description or something. Also, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the upcoming Pride themed videos. This whole month I'm doing Pride videos, and there's still one more that you don't want to miss, so make sure you're subscribed. And on with the video. So to get all the flags, I kind of use a character generator that would generate like the sexuality and gender of your character. So the first one I got was non-binary. So I'm doing the non-binary flag. And at first it was really hard for me to come up with anything to turn this into. The yellow immediately made me think of the sun, so I figured that would be incorporated somehow, but it's really high up and it's a whole entire stripe. Then I thought of making a purple to black gradient with the purple and black, and that made me think of mountains, and then I could have like the white be the snow peaks. And that was the best idea I could come up with, so that's what I went with. So first I sketched a ton of triangles, and at first I made most of them end like perfectly on the white stripe, or a little lower, but then I kind of varied some and made some go higher than the white stripe, some lower, just to add more variation, because I didn't want it to be like the perfect stripes. I wanted the drawings and the colors in them to line up fairly well with the stripes of the flag, but I still wanted it to be an artwork, you know? So then I started with the purple mountains, and then added the black fade, and then I tried blending it out with the watercolor brush. But honestly, the watercolor brush tends to carry the colors a lot more. So like the black was overtaking the purple, but the blur tool doesn't carry the color enough. So realistically, I should have just used the gradient tool that Ibis Paint has in like the filters, but I don't know. I guess I didn't know if I could color select that purple and use it for the gradient color, so I'm sure I could have figured out a way to do it, but it probably would have been annoying either way. And then I added the snow at the tops, and I added it to all the mountains, so there are like bits of white at the bottom, even though, you know, there's no white stripe down there. But once again, I want to have this look like the flag, but also make it look good. Then for the sky, I just had a white to yellow fade. Technically, I didn't have to do the white fade, but I felt like there is still a large amount of that white stripe in the sky, and it looks like some sort of sunrise thing. But after all that, I still felt like it needed more. So I added in these dots of texture along the snow and the mountains. For the mountains, I took the actual black and purple colors, and for the areas that were more purple, I took the black dots along there, and then the areas that were more black, I used the purple dots, just to add some texture. And then I added some gray dots along the snow. In the mountains, I also blurred out the dots because I felt that they're too intense and I want them to be a bit more subtle. They're still fairly noticeable, but I think the blurring made them look a lot better. And after that was pretty much done. It's nice, simple. I mean, it's not the most like realistic thing, obviously, but I still like how it looks. Didn't even do any shading. It's just nice to let things go and go with something much more simple in order to try and replicate the flags. Next, we have the pan flag. And when I looked at this, immediately I thought of a sunset. Like, look at that. That's like perfect sunset colors. Sunset over the ocean. Like, come on. So I had the same problem blending pink to yellow as I did with the purple and black gradient, where like the pink was overtaking the yellow. I left it a bit less mixed since it's a sunset, so a lot of times there will be like clouds and it won't be perfect. It's not too bad if the pink's encroaching on the yellow, because that's just going to make the sun, when I add it, pop out more in the yellow areas. Speaking of the sun, I took a circle ruler in what I thought was the center to draw the sun. I just made a full circle and colored it in and put the layer of ocean above it. But it was not centered at all. So what I did to try and make it as centered as possible, I'm sure there is an easier way, but I would flip the canvas and see like if the sun like noticeably changed positions. And I did that until it moved like a very small amount. There was a lot of canvas flipping and transforming to center it when it really wasn't that big a deal. I also blurred the edges of the sun to make it more of like the ball of gas it actually is, not this perfect sphere. Then I copy and pasted the sky, flipped it vertically, and lowered the opacity so the water had an overlay of the sky, so it was reflecting that a bit. And then I tried to add a water shine down the center, but it just wasn't looking right for some reason. I mean, I've never really done water shine before. I probably should have like looked up what I was doing, but I just went for it, and then I was like confused when it didn't work. I tried doing thinner lines of white instead, but that still looked bad. So instead I changed all those white lines I was doing to yellow and blended it a ton so it was just a reflection of the sun instead. The drawing was still looking empty though, so we added these birds into the sky, and those were a bit too intense with the pure black. So I lowered the opacity on those and it was done. I honestly love the aesthetic of this one. Like, the pan flag has always had great colors, but like, man, it's so good. It's still missing those water shines though. I gotta figure out how to do that at some point. Then for the final flag, I have the gay flag, but not like the rainbow gay flag, but the one that like the flag that's for gay men that's going around. The colors on it are really pretty, so I was down to draw it. I don't actually know how many people use this flag. I've seen it a couple times, but it's a really pretty flag, so I'm gonna draw it anyway. So all I could think of looking at the greens was like a field of grass, and then the blues I just thought of water again. So I just drew some water crashing onto a field of grass. So I started with the outline for the water and then drew in the gradient for it all from blue to white. Still struggled with blending it, but I tried to like stop early and not mess with it too much, which I think worked a lot better. It does look a bit off in some areas. I don't know, just like it might just be because we have this huge texture that's like this blurred gradient, and then the part that's up top is flat colors, and that contrast is making it look weird, but who knows. Also, all of these ended up being landscapes, which makes sense. Like, we're converting these stripes into something that's filling up the whole page. Of course, they're all gonna like be landscapes, or at least involve elaborate backgrounds. Well, not elaborate, or at least involve backgrounds. But I don't know, I don't usually draw landscapes, and it's been a while since I've really drawn a background. Like, I think the last time I might have done that might have been during my OC videos, where I would draw them all in backgrounds at the very end. I think that was the last time I drew a background. So it's been a while, and it was really nice to do all these little simple landscapes, so it wasn't like a lot of pressure, since it's something I don't do that often. So I really had a lot of fun with all of these. So after the water was done, I started working on the grass, and I was tempted to like add texture to the whole thing, but in order to keep the colors more reminiscent of the colors that are actually on the flag, I decided to just use texture in between the changes of color to try and make them blend together a bit more instead of being perfect stripes. And this required like a lot of back and forth of using one color and then taking the other color and drawing lines, and yeah, a lot of switching colors and a lot of drawing lines. But I like how it looks in the end. Then I removed the outline from the water so I could like add froth to the very end and blur that out a bit more. There's this one drawing I did last year in like July. It was definitely July, where I had this really nice froth made with the smudge tool. But I've never been able to replicate that. I tried doing it again, it didn't work, so I just kind of blurred out the edges with the watercolor tool. This drawing also felt a bit empty, and like there wasn't really any focal point going on. So he added these fish silhouettes at the bottom with a little love heart, because they're in love, some gay fish on the gay flag. And then I lowered the opacity since I think they're popping out a bit too much. And you know, they're under the water supposedly, so they do kind of break the whole perspective, because this is supposedly either like a top-down view or a kind of tilted top-down view, if that makes sense. But in order for the fish to be in a position where you would see their fins like this, they're either they're either swimming sideways, or this would be a straight-on view, which means that the froth couldn't be at that position. But oh well, we're not gonna question it. These drawings don't have to abide by, you know, the rules of perspective or physics. But after that, it was pretty much done. And I like how simple it is, like the other ones. I mean, I feel like this one has a lot less going on than the other drawings. Like, it's just a field with some water and some fish that break the laws of the universe. But I still think the colors are really pretty, so I like it. A lot of these drawings, it's just like, oh, I like the colors. I mean, the drawing, you know, it's there, but the colors are just so satisfying. So if you did like the video, please make sure to subscribe and like it. Also, comment down any flags you might want me to do next year if I were to do this again. Also in the description are all my social media, so I'd recommend you go follow those. And I will see you all next